बीच बीच में।
Yeah. Good evening and welcome you all for this important evening and on the beginning of the 25th year. It's just a marking of our journey. So the program is roughly we will release the logo as a kind of of 25th year logo by Dr. Iqbal. Then we'll have a photo journey of 25th year JSA journey. It is very difficult. Whatever our photos available in Sochara Center and on the website we have collated, this work will continue. So we'll have this 25 years photo journey. And then all the founders and the seniors are with us now. So they will have a 5 to 7 minutes of each one of them will share their thoughts of right to health on the context of the current context and the kind of role of health movements in current context. And then we will also share about the kind of a next 1 year action plan. It's not exactly action plan, it's kind of the idea which we discussed in the last National Coordination Committee, and we'll kind of replace it here. We'll place it again here, and we'll take it from there. So this is a kind of a overall agenda. In between, Claudio Scriptan from PHM Global Circle will also join around 6:30. So he will also speak in solidarity from PHM Circle. So this is the whole overall kind of program what we thought of. So I request Dr. Shakil to welcome all of you, and then we can just get into next one. Dr. Shakil.
Yeah. शुक्रिया आमिर, नमस्कार, आदाब, गुड इवनिंग सबों को जो बानिए जन स्वास्थ्य अभियान, द फाउंडर्स ऑफ द जन स्वास्थ्य अभियान, करंट फेलो ट्रेवलर्स, कॉमरेड इन आर्म्स और दोस्तों, ये हमारे लिए एक महत्वपूर्ण अवसर है आप सबों का इस जन स्वास्थ्य अभियान के 24 साल की मीटिंग, 24 साल पूरा करने और 25वें साल में दाखिल होने के मौके पर जो सफर सन 2000 में शुरू किया गया था, उस सफर को हम आज आगे बढ़ाते हुए 25वें साल में हम अपने कदम को रख रहे हैं और इस मौके पर हम आप सब लोगों का इस्तकबाल, स्वागत और वेलकम करते हैं। It is my honor to welcome you all to this online gathering to celebrate 25 years of Jan Swasthya Abhiyan, a movement deeply rooted in the ethos of equity, social justice, and universal access to healthcare. JSA has been a beacon of hope, advocating for a people-centered approach to health in India, and is proudly affiliated with the global People's Health Movement. Over the past 2.5 decades, JSA has been at the forefront of crucial battles for public health, whether it be pushing for a stronger public health systems, questioning privatization in healthcare, or raising voices for marginalized communities. Today, as we reflect on this journey, we also acknowledge the immense challenges that remain in our collective pursuit of health for all. This occasion is not just a milestone, but a moment to reaffirm our commitment. I, on behalf of JSA National Coordination Committee, thank each of you, activists, researchers, policy makers, and community leaders whose dedication has brought us here. Let us use this platform to discuss, reflect, and strategize for the road ahead. Together, we can strengthen our shared vision for a more equitable and healthier India. दोस्तों, आखिर में फिर एक बार आपका शुक्रिया और हम आपका पुनः इस मीटिंग में स्वागत करते हैं। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। ओवर टू आमिर।
Thank you, Dr. Shakil, for a wonderful welcome thing. And I hope all of you are hearing, audios kind of getting it. Sumitra has written it's not there. So maybe Suresh can look into that audio issue. So thanks, Dr. Shakil. So now I welcome Dr. Iqbal. Uh, we all know that he's the first national convener of JSA and one of the founders of JSA. So we are very happy to Iqbal here, and so I welcome him to give an inaugural kind of inaugurate this 25th year day and inaugural address. And after he speaks, then he will also unveil the JSA 25th logo. Dr. Iqbal, please.
Namaskar, friends. In fact, when it was mentioned that this is the 25th year of the formation of JSA, like many of my other friends, I also sat back and exclaimed, oh, 25 years, it has passed just like that, because all the events are imprinted in our minds in such a way that this appears, there is a telescoping of that last 25 years. And we have our own triumphs and setbacks, but then we somehow speared for the last 25 years. Now, before I mention a few points, let me pay tribute to a few of our friends who have left us. Of course, I may miss out large number of them, but nevertheless, I have to necessarily mention about Dr. Safullah Chowdhury, Amit Sen Gupta, Dr. Balasubramaniam, and David Saunders. These are the four persons who come to our mind, who took the initiative to bring together the people's health movements all over the world as well as within India. Now, this year also marks another event, I would say, because if you look back, you see that there were a large number of what can be described as people's health movement groups in India. But I would say that the most representative of them was Medico Front Circle, which was formed in 1974. And therefore, this year happens to be the golden jubilee year, like the silver jubilee year of JSA. This year happens to be the golden jubilee year, or the 50th anniversary of the formation of Medico Front Circle, which was observed in Calicut very recently. Binayak Sen, Meera Shiva, Sarojini, and others were present for this function, Umar Jasani and others. Well, now, if you look at this, which can be categorized in general as people's health movement, the interesting thing about the feature of these movements is that the diversity of people who are participating in this people's health movement. They were not only socially conscious health professionals that formed these organizations or movements. There were health practitioners, of course, especially doing their practice at the grassroots level, social scientists, social activists, then academicians. Say, for example, Dr. D. Banerjee and Imrana Khadir were part of this movement. And then there were voluntary organizations, feminist organizations, people's science movements, and even trade unions. And all of them came together. All of them were active in this so-called people's health movement all over India. And there were a few who actually were running rural health centers, which can be compared to our primary health care centers. Now, the very interesting thing about this movement is that this consists of people who have got very, very differing political moorings, from pure Gandhians to extreme left politicians. Political leanings were present in these groups, but nevertheless, they were all joined together for establishing a people's health policy for the country. Now, if you look at these grassroots level movements, we can also see that as different from many other grassroots movements, these were social expert assisted grassroots movements. I mean, not purely pure experts, but socially conscious expert assisted grassroots level movements were these people's health movement. And all of them were concerned about the social determinants of health, not only pure health, but the social determinants of health and the political economy of health. So these were the two major concerns of these groups. And what these groups were doing was basically demystifying the medical practice. Because medical science and medical practice as such is a highly mystified and expert-oriented area where there is an information inequality between people at large and the service providers. And we could demystify the whole thing. That is the major achievement of this movement. And thereby empowering the people and enabling them to participate in determining a people-oriented health policy for the state. It's not only that the experts who are carrying out this, the people were empowered and they became confident enough to intervene in health-related activities. Now, as a whole, we were preparing a roadmap for public health development of the country. And I think if you look back, I think the major achievement was that we could make health as a topic for mainstream debate. Usually it is not, but we could make it a health as a political agenda has been set. And we could influence regional, national and international health policies for varying extent. Now, the first attempt to bring these groups together happened in 1982, because at that time, most of these groups were fighting against what we described as the drug colonialism in the early 80s, because there were marketing of irrational and harmful drugs, which were banned in developed countries. There were double standards followed in drug promotion and marketing. It was difficult to get this information at that time. It has to be sent by post, but there were a large number of books were published at that time. And we started talking about the Hathi Committee report, who first talked about essential drug list. It was in 1975. WHO started essential drug list only in 1977. Now we came together, and there were persons like Uli Hansen who actually he was a martyr in the fight against the multinational drug companies. And the first grouping together of these health movements in India happened in Wardha, Sevagram Ashram in 1982 to the formation of All India Drug Action Network. And a large number of some of who are present here attended it. There was Aravind Patwardhan of the Arogya Dakshata Mandal, Anand Fatke, R.K. Anand, Dinesh Abrol was there. I was happy. In fact, this is one of the most important events in my life that I have attended. If I write my biography, this is the major event which changed my life in later years. So All India Drug Action Network was formed, and then in 2000, around more than a dozen of networks joined together. In fact, JSA is a network of network. It is a network of networks, we may say, because in between the science groups formed All India People Science Movement, AIPSN was formed. Sundaraman also played a major role in it. And we came together and formed the JSA. And in the JSA fold, there were trade unions like FMRA. There were women-centered organizations like SAMA. There were health groups who were doing training and research like Sochara. And all of them came together and formed the JSA. And if you remember, the JSA movement was held in Salt Lake in Calcutta, November 30th, December 1. And a section of these groups moved to Savar, Bangladesh. And the PHM was held in December 4 to 8 in Savar, Bangladesh. And as you know, in both these meetings, a People's Health Charter was accepted. And Harden Mahler played a major role in preparing this document, People's Health Charter in Savar. And generally speaking, Jan Swasthya Abhiyan started working on major thrust of our campaign was to pressurize the government to implement a people-oriented health policy and ensure universal healthcare. Universal healthcare means availability, accessibility, and affordability of healthcare to all, irrespective of income, region, and gender. And we also ask for the strengthening of the public health system and social control of the private sector, and women's health rights and gender equity and access to essential medicine. These were major issues on which we started campaign based upon the People's Health Charter. Now, the PHM also made enormous impact at the global level. In fact, it was in 2008 was a watershed year as far as the health movement, global health concepts were concerned. And in 2008, the social determinants of health document was published by the WHO. And the same year, the primary healthcare more than ever document was published by WHO. And later in 2018, the Astana conference was organized. In all these international events, PHM and also the Jan Swasthya Abhiyan played a major role to play. Now, without going into further details, I am sure that the details of what we did last 25 years will be gone through by my friends here. I may say that there was a conceptual development as far as people's health movement was concerned. Looking back from primary healthcare, we are now moving to universal healthcare. As I said, we are now talking about availability, accessibility, and affordability. These three factors. These should be there for everyone, irrespective of income, etc. And secondly, to realize that, to make this universal healthcare a reality, we have to make right to health a justifiable right. That is, it should be made a fundamental right in the Indian Constitution. That is our demand. Now, and also increase the substantially the public health expenditure. We said that it is a paltry less than 1%. Now it has to be increased immediately to 2.5% and increased to 5% as advocated by WHO, and expand and strengthen the public health system and phase out the health insurance system that is now being followed here, and adopt a people-oriented pharmaceutical policy and a comprehensive healthcare for the vulnerable groups also. So these are the major demands on which we are now fighting. So we have to make, our major campaign plans are that health is a human right, not a privilege. It is not a privilege, it is a human right. And therefore, what we were looking at, if you look back, what was the achievement of us, that we have critically looked at the health policies of the government and suggested people-oriented activity, people-oriented alternatives. Not only that we are simple critics, stand back, stand apart and criticize the government, but also came out with people-oriented health policies. And we campaigned and mobilized people based upon these alternative policies. Not only that, we were not standing, again, not critic and standing apart. Wherever possible, whenever we got an opportunity, we also participated in various capacities in the government agencies to influence the health policies. Maybe as advisors, maybe as chairpersons of various committees. We could also influence the health policies in various states, maybe in Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Kerala. We could also participate and course correction. We could also do course correction by participation in various bodies. Now, friends, if you ask me what we should do next, I have a dream to share with you, which I have elaborated earlier in our groups. Because issues are very clear. Our alternatives are also very well, we have formulated our alternatives also very well. Now, I would, one of my dreams, which I hope we will be able to carry out, because now in our folds, there are large number of youngsters, very dynamic youngsters in our fold. I would say we should have a Bharat Health March, a Bharat Swasthya Yatra, a Bharat Swasthya Yatra, or a Bharat Sabke Liye Swasthya Yatra, a All India Health for All March. Bharat Sabke Liye Swasthya Yatra from Kashmir to Kanyakumari or Kanyakumari to Kashmir. Where, of course, not a foot march, but maybe group of activists can move from one state to another, one union territory to other. This composition can change subject to availability of for the activists, and we will have to mobilize people based upon our demand, like to make health as a human right. So this is my dream. I hope that a decision on this of a Bharat Sabke Liye Swasthya Yatra, we can decide to formulate subsequently, may not be here, but subsequently. This is my drum. These are my few words, introductory word to this celebration of 25th anniversary of JSA. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Iqbal, for this briefing us the history and what is the action plan and all. Yeah. So may I request you to kind of release that logo, the JSA 25th year logo. Maybe you can just show that. Yeah, that's great. Suresh can put up into the Suresh into the PPT mode. It is not visible.
Yeah, it's not visible.
Suresh. Yeah. Okay, make it bigger, Suresh. Okay. Yeah, this is the logo. Just we can use it for the next 1 year for all our activities, banners, posters, and the publications and all over. And yeah, so with that, thank you, Dr. Iqbal. And maybe like I'll invite Dr. Ravi Narayan, because like as a kind of together, like who started the movement and kind of one of the founders and actively involved in PH Global Circle. So we'll hear Dr. Ravi, then we'll get into the photo journey of JSA, and then we'll continue. Yeah. So Dr. Ravi, are you ready? So you can.
Okay, friends, am I clear?
Yes, Ravi. Yes.
I have always followed Dr. Iqbal to many places, including Pakistan. It is a different story because we have done many things together. And so I'm so happy to be here today and to wish all of you on Thelma and my behalf and all our friends in Sochara. We are very proud to be part of PHM. We are very proud to be Jan Swasthya Abhiyan members. And though we were the smallest network, because we were in 3 states and only about 35 people at the time we joined PHM and JSA, we've been very deeply involved because in 1991, when we set up Sochara, is that?
Friends, can you mute yourself, please? Yeah. Go ahead, Ravi.
Okay. So I just want to, greet all of you, friends in Sochara, in PHM and JSA. To me, JSA and PHM are very similar. In fact, JSA was the inspiration for PHM. Many of you may not know, because what we did in 2000, some of which was mentioned by Dr. Iqbal, and I just want to add a few things to that. To me, the main subject I just want to remind us was that for many of us, at least I've just been listing out, I'm working a lot on history. For about 25 of us who were part of Jan Swasthya Abhiyan, the journey started not in 2000, but in 1975. And I'm doing a lot of work on history and archives. And I think in 1974-75, around the anti-emergency movement, the Jayaprakash Narayan movement, and as Dr. Iqbal said, the formation of MFC, many of us had begun to know each other. And I don't want to start listing it out, but there are people from that time who are no longer with us, and we must remember them. Dr. Antya, Dr. Amit Sen Gupta, Zafrullah Bhai, Prem John, and many others. And we knew each other. We were young people full of energy, coming from different backgrounds. And for us, 25 years of working together, and then the JSA was like a fruition. So for me, it's my 50th year of the health movement and not the 25th year. And I think it's very important. I'm spending now in my semi-retirement working on the history of those first 25 years, which brought us together. But I just want to help build the spirit of working together and endorse what Dr. Iqbal has said, that we are a very multidisciplinary, multi-movement network. And I just want to highlight 5 things from that first year that led to the formation of Jan Swasthya Abhiyan. I had the unique opportunity of being along with Dr. Sundar, the joint convener to Dr. Iqbal, who was our convener for that whole year. We started in January 2000, and by December 2000 AD, we were all so surprised, so enthused, and so inspired by the coming together of 18 national networks right across the political spectrum, not right wing, but I mean, when I say from extreme left to sort of little bit beyond center, but we were all very oriented to looking for health for all. And many of us had started our journeys before Alma Ata. So for many of us, Alma Ata was an endorsement, not an inspiration, because we'd already started working on ideas and so on beyond biomedical techno-managerialism and towards equity and towards involving the community. Now, I just want to highlight 5 things to remind all of you, those of you from that day, and those of you who have joined, look back on those, which I think are an expression of this coming together, which I think is so important. We are one of the strongest coming together, I think, in Indian history, especially of such a motley group of people with multidisciplinary, multisectoral, different as Dr. In fact, if anybody just studies the 18 networks, and now they've increased and become more, and all the groups involved, we were a very good group. I want to start by first the very inspiring speech given by Colonel Lakshmi Sehgal, when, I don't know how many of you know, when 5 people's trains organized by the Indian Railways with the help of, certain contracts that Sundar and I had, brought 2,500 Indian health activists. These trains were only full of activists. Nobody else was allowed to join. And around from various different journeys, people stopping at stations, and activists getting on, and other activists and other friends who couldn't go on, having little sing song and all sorts of things along the way. We arrived in Calcutta. And all of this has been by young activists of those days, Balaji and Kalpana and others, on video. When we arrived, before that, I must say, we did some very strange things, which I think should be looked at, because if we could do it in 2000, why can't we do it in 2025? We put together, by writing to all our friends from January, 5 little booklets. These were collections of articles edited by some of us. Each one took a responsibility. And by April of that year, we had a most interesting meeting. I don't know, to me, these are all very foundational, that 5 members from each of the 18 organizations, so 90 people, gathered in Hyderabad in the Central Regional Institute of Languages We sat for 5 days in 5 different corners of the book, and we produced 5 little booklets, which I think should be compulsory reading for everybody, because they are the only books in Indian health history written by 18 national networks and no single authors. And we were all, this was a really proof of that. Dr. Haftan Mala, who read it, called it the Bible towards the tortuous road, on the tortuous road to primary health care. We then translated these into 14 languages. Again, the only books in India in health movement, which is in 14 languages. We then had sent to different states. Then with the help of Dr. Sundaraman and his friends from the science movement, we had them translated, not only translated, but they were written in what I call the David Werner style, where cartoons were there, people talking to professionals, professionals talking to people, and they're full of photographs. So even if you don't read the book and you just flip the pages, you'll pick up the whole message. The idea was that these were people's health resource books, not resource books for activists and for intellectuals and for privileged people. And in our state, in Karnataka, we got very carried away and converted them into a whole book of Kala Jatha. And therefore, and then 300 district level meetings, 17 state level meetings, and 2,500 activists in 4 or 5 people's trains to Calcutta. That was the level of mobilization. In Calcutta, we all met in an organization in the Salt Lake Stadium for 4 days. We had lots of meetings, lots of small workshops, lots of celebration. And then at the end of it, 2,500 activists along with 25,000 other people, which all our comrades and friends in Calcutta, all the organizations had mobilized, arrived in the Calcutta Maidan. And we inaugurated the second liberation struggle. I still remember the message beautifully put by Lakshmi Saigalji that we were all part of the first liberation struggle, which was political emancipation and, starting of the constitution. You people are part of the second liberation struggle, the liberation struggle against ill health and the liberation struggle against ignorance and the lack of education. And to me, it was such a meaningful movement. And all of us standing there, 18 organizations holding hands. I don't think that even the India bloc reaches anywhere close to that particular statement. So I think it's very important for us to understand that was the beginning. And for many of us, we had walked already for 25 years and we were now holding hands with people. And so I think this is very, very important for all of us to understand. We have to be together. We have to have a people's communication strategy. And while we must deal with organized groups and so on, I had the unique opportunity of being joint convener with Sundar, and then later taking over as the global coordinator and repeating this. And I want to assure all of you and inspire all the JSA volunteers that I went to 30 countries, well, 25 to be exact. 5 were, the same country but a different place. And everywhere, the JSA mobilization was the inspiration. Dr. Iqbal and I went to Pakistan, others we went to Sri Lanka, to Bangladesh, to Nepal, to Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and everywhere I had only one story to share. And that was the story of Jan Swasthya Abhiyan mobilization. And it was so inspiring because most people couldn't even believe that it was true, but it was coming from someone who was deeply involved. So I want to remind all of you today that what we are starting is not only looking at what we should be doing in today's context, but I think this year should also be the start of rebuilding that feeling of togetherness, the feeling that a time had come where we were on the verge of health for all, but it didn't happen. Now we are on the verge of universal health care, but it will happen because we are all there. We were not there at Alma Ata. We handed it over to governments and to systems and academics. the most important message of Jan Swasthya Abhiyan People's Health Movement is that now there's a countervailing power. We are like the social vaccine that will make it happen. And I really so happy to be here. My last word for the way ahead, you're all here and I can see so many, wonderful friends and comrades and who have done years of work, and I'm sure they'll give ideas. I just have a small idea that the stories of these last 25 years and maybe the stories of each of us as we moved into this large network is very important. Now, us telling the story is one thing, but younger people coming to explore these stories, and the Sochara has now started for the last 2-3 years, and I'm doing that full time as my contribution in my 76th year, in my 50th year of community health, running something called the Sochara Archives. It's called Sudha, Sochara Unit of Digital Humanities, run by younger people, Akshay and others whom you'll meet in meetings. But I'm just putting together and look forward to any volunteer who would like to come and look at issues and what happened in different parts of India, and whatever little material we have, we'd like to make, because you can have an archives, but you need to have volunteers who come and curate stories that inspires, stories that are based on evidence from the archives. So thanks a lot for this opportunity, and I hope we'll build on history just as we walk further together. Thank you.
Thanks, Ravi, for the love and the inspirational message. And thank you so much. And I'm thank you that you are a storyteller. You must have taken a lot of time, but you have restricted everything. And thank you for that. And maybe since actually we thought of having this photo journey now after this, but since Ravi has mentioned many times, it's kind of a sequence we have to see that. Maybe Sundar, if we hear Sundar us together, then I think we can get into the photo journey. I think that would be apt. So Sundar, please.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I will take a few brief minutes. Yes, I loved it when Iqbal was speaking, and thoroughly enjoyed it when Ravi was speaking now, because he recalled a whole lot of areas and I was wondering whether to tell it or not. But especially the trains, how we pulled it off. Behind all these stories are little bit of practical ways in which we get things done. And sometimes when we present it, it seems like a romantic engagement, but when we are doing it, there's a whole lot of things that need to be done. So I wish sometime, Ravi, some of us, we write down the story of what happened. But it's not only about looking on the past. So I'm going to just highlight 5 features here and 1 word on the future.
Sundar, sorry to interrupt, Sundar. Sorry. Can you just little bit louder? Your voice
Yes,
is.
I hope that is loud now. Is it louder now?
Yes. Yeah. Please.
Okay, I'll try to be as loud as possible. So the triggering event was that Health for All by 2000 AD was the slogan. 2000 AD had come, but Health for All had not come. And the governments of the world was going around pretending that they had never talked about it. There was silence on the issue. And the challenge was to say that you, the governments, may have forgotten, but we, the people, remember. So when we planned the National Health Assembly, we did not plan an organization or a network. We only planned an event. The subsequent idea of converting it into an organization took actually into a network, took actually 2 years to mature. So we were actually going for this event, and that was an important thing. Another detail which is worth looking is that a number of health groups and shall we say health champions of right to health, who were part of different organizational networks, some of which Iqbal mentioned, some of which Ravi Narayanan mentioned, had already planned assembly in in Dhaka, Sawar. But Zafrullah was particular that this be more than a conference, and some of our people in India had even registered for the conference. But he was very clear that this should be used as a mobilizational event. So at end, a full year later, earlier in 1990, towards he met a number of us, and then later in this January meeting that Ravin mentioned, and we decided to make sure that the event is the sort of climax, but that there is a huge process of mobilization around it. And I think Ravi mentioned many aspects, activities that constituted the mobilization and also constituted a whole different way of taking this into public prominence. A third important thing is we had to define, if so many networks are coming together, what bound us together? What is the commonality of ideas? And this whole project of writing these 5 booklets. And of course, there's a whole lot of, the first draft is important. Never undermine the importance of that. But after that, in this, in the CIEFL in Hyderabad, we had this huge meeting where in different corners, in 5 corners, everyone thrashed out what they wanted with the book, what they thought was understated, and then a 2-month process of incorporating all of that, and then the process of disseminating it. So there was, in some way, we powerfully created a powerful public discourse. In some sense, remember, now we think, okay, it's one book. It wasn't quite like that then. That time, the structural adjustment policy and the selective healthcare and the notions of what should be, we should focus only on some things, IMR, MMR, the Millennium Development Goals. These were the dominant discourse. These were the dominant discourse. And to actually challenge and trash that dominant discourse, including, we remember the comments you must see on the booklet on DOTS. We called DOTS directly observed treatment short course. We called it, denial of treatment to the sickest. Meaning, I give this as an example of how these books actually united us around a whole lot of understanding about what is the alternative integrated care that we are really talking about and how we need to build it. Not every detail needs to survive, but there was a process of bringing together a consensus, and that was a process that was very participatory and energizing in itself. Then there was a fourth, shall I say, divergence from the past practice. In this definition of who are we and what are we doing and why are we and what is different? Because there were many health groups, and we must mention this, who were doing good work. Health Action International, Pesticide Action, IPFAN, that predates the People's Health Movement and the Jan Swasthya Abhiyan. And one of the key, there were 2 or 3 key tenets that animated the process we took. One was to say that we should go beyond health groups. We should go into groups that are, who do not see health as their primary area of action, because therefore they have members of the general public, and we must draw those networks into this organization. Therein comes, for example, the role that the All India People's Science Network, and that time, remember, it was the end of the literacy decade, the role of the Bharat Gyan Vigyan Samiti in many places. Many of the people who actually came were from the BGVS in the north. So, in some sense, other than the health groups who had their thing. So, then we had also the National Alliance of People's Movements. Medha Patkar herself participated. We had discussions with them on their thing. We had also the All India Democratic Women's Association, and we had the other women's of the NFIW. And in terms of the names, we had even the Congress Committee on the All India Women's Conference on the thing. So there was this conscious attempt to say that we are not looking at health activists, the health groups are doing that. We are looking at people's activists, and we want to make the health message a larger message across people. And even if people are not full-time, and most of them will not be, they take the message to their respective constituencies, which could be by occupational group, by say among nurses or government doctors, or it could be by working group, or it could be even by political ideology and affiliations, or by different people's movements. So the message of health for all has to be taken across, and that was something that animated this. And therefore, this tension between resource organizations and networks had something that we were to reconcile in this. Finally, I asked the question as to what impact did it have? And that's always a very difficult question, because when political change occurs, it never occurs because of one stream of intervention. It occurs because of multiple streams of intervention. And you could see that if you would say right after that, the right to food action took place, and then the National Health Mission took place in this space. If you actually were to look at the details of the formulation of how architectural correction differs from health sector reform, and why health sector reform was not used as their logo, and instead areas like decentralization, community mobilized participation, professionalization of management, accountability, these things became the central tenets of health sector strengthening, as different from health sector reforms tenets in the previous period. It owes a lot to the way we could shape the public discourse. Did it go far enough? Did it go near enough? No, it's not as if the opposition decided to surrender and go away. There were strong currents of being able to incorporate what we were saying into the discourse, dominant discourse in that terms. And multiple other discourses, especially the universal health coverage discourse, were to come up. But in that brief window we had, there was a huge progress, especially in the UPA-1 period, that we could make towards decentralized, democratized healthcare, which went so far, and even then never, for example, went beyond selective care because of different constraints. But there was a movement in that direction. So my contention is that at some point we can underestimate the impact if we don't see the time sequence and how it is in the nature of the public discourse that is important to change before you settle the ground. And it needs to come with a political change. The political change is not quite within our control, but at some point, what we have, we should do well. Which comes to this theme, and I'm very happy that we have chosen this theme of the right to healthcare and the right to health as the theme for the 25th anniversary thing. This is an important theme because this discourse that we need to put up around the right to health and healthcare is more than just the passing of a law or an act or an amendment or something of a legal tool. It's not to be limited to our success or failure measured to that. It is in fact an alternative way of talking about what nature of health systems we want, which is not market-based, which is not based on health as a commodity, as health as exchange value, but it is based on healthcare and health delivery as a use value. A different way of organizing health services so that it is outside the market forces. And in that sense, you could call it a political economy approach, a critical political economy approach, but these terms are used in many ways where the spirit of what we say is best captured in right to healthcare. So the right to healthcare is a mobilization, right to health and the right to healthcare are mobilizational issues, but they are also share a message of the alternate world we want. They also share a message of the alternate development to which our health interventions are linked, and therefore the need for solidarity across our group. It also includes in this the whole nature of how we must rethink the organization of health systems and healthcare delivery in different innovative ways and convince and build around a popular support for these ideas as an alternative too, of which therefore the actual amendment or the passing of a legislation is an important step. So I think it is a sort of nodalizing step around which we can take. So though we have progressed in 25 years, I am afraid to say the political processes have actually been giving a serious pushback to it. I mean, you must see, I don't want to get into the specifics of who are the new thinkers in the dominant people like Arvind Panagriha and what he's been saying around on issues like the right to health. There is a new discourse being constructed, and our work is cut out for us. And though there have been some advance in this front, there has been considerable pushback on both the economic and in terms of social justice and the social ideology. And I think our intervention in health and right to health is part of our intervention for a better world. Thank you.
Wow. Oh, thank you, Sudha. Thank you. I'm about to remind you the time. So thank you so much. And thanks to reiterate the theme and kind of, endorse the 25th year theme of right to health and healthcare. I think where we are going to work around that theme. And it's a kind of, it's our own meeting. So changing the sequence, changing the agenda here and there, like, maybe can be understood in a right spirit. We thought to have this photo journey after Sundar Singh, but there are few important people, our women comrades also played a major role in formation and kind of running these JSA's objective forward for the last 25 years. And we are having Meera, Shiva, Sarojini, Vandana, Renu, and all with us in this meeting. So maybe we'll continue. Two of them can speak initially. Then we can, by the time Claudio will also join. So we'll listen to him. Then we'll come back to our Indian comrades to listen. And in between, we'll have this photo journey. So that is the kind of arrangement. We are just making changes. So with that, we have Dr. Meera Shah with us, and who is one of the kind of founder along with all others. So we can listen to Meera. Meera, welcome, and you can for 7 to 8 minutes. Yeah, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Amir. It was so nice to see Dr. Iqbal, Vandana, Ravi, Suhas, and many of our friends and colleagues who have been co-travelers. And I think one of the things that bound us together was that we all were deeply convinced, that and committed to the whole concept of comprehensive primary health care. I'm saying it was very ingrained in our minds and our hearts. So whatever we were doing in whichever sphere we were, it was with a deep understanding of that issue. Of course, now when we look back, say it could have been more radical, etc., etc. But at that time, from challenging the biomedical model, that itself was a very, very big issue. Incidentally, I was at that time with Voluntary Health Association of India, and the Varda meeting that Dr. Iqbal mentioned, I also happened to be there, and VHI organized it. And VHI had 4,000 non-governmental, non-profit making institutions as members and state VHS. Now, the only reason I'm mentioning it, I'm no longer with VHI. I was there for 28 years. But that Varda meeting and several others were organized along with, Medico Friends, many other groups. So I happen to be part of Medico Friends Circle, and also along with VHI, and later All India Drug Action Network, which we formed. And I think it was in Chennai that Vinod Raina came, that Chennai meeting that Sundar was mentioning. Because Vinod Raina had gone to Bangladesh, and Zafrullah had convinced him that Indian groups needed to be mobilized much more. So if there was going to be, that big meeting that Ravi was also mentioning, that the largest number of people should be coming basically from India. So the relationship of People's Health Movement and Jan Swasthya Abhiyan has been very, 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 very close and very intricate. The besides the question of health work, uh, the movement and the action related to pharmaceuticals was, I think, extremely important, because the gross malpractice by the big companies, as I mentioned, selling drugs and then bringing out bannable drugs. Dr. Iqbal didn't mention the Dear Doctor thing that they brought out, uh, which was adequately impressive. It was written for the doctors. And what Sundar mentioned about the Hyderabad exercise, where those booklets were brought out, and the whole process that took place in bringing that out. I'm saying these were different landmarks. And I just want to also mention that Dr. Antia and Dr. D. Banerjee were co-chairperson. Dr. Iqbal was our convener of JSA. And over the years, the issue of changes that were taking place at the international scene, whether it was related to free trade agreements, whether it was related to intellectual property rights, whether it was related to unjust international trade laws, that JSA and PHM worked very closely together. And within the country, I think KSSP and of course, that time, Ravi, you did mention community health cell, because for us it was not Sochara, it was community health cell, which was a very important pivotal entity, and organizing many different things. But so I think pushing for policies across, not just in health, but many other policies. I think Vandana mentioned related to food and related to many other things, that wherever possible, the intervention that were made by people who were associated with JSA was extremely important. And resisting negative policies, because that itself required understanding and being able to critique it and challenge it with adequate academic rigor. And like Dr. Ole Hansen visited India 1983, and the drug that was mentioned was hydroxyquinoline, which he was acting as an expert in for the small victims, 11,000 victims in Japan who had become blinded or paralyzed. Now, we want to remember many people who in the cause, definitely Dr. Zafrullah, definitely Dr. Bala, Dr. Prem John, because incidentally Deen Bandhu, and this is before JSA was formed, that Dr. Prem John and Hari John were my preceptors. So the whole issue of Philanthus niruri being used by village people for jaundice, I'm just mentioning this, and then later finding out that it is being patented for hepato-regenerative properties. That learning for me came from Deen Bandhu, from the village women. So Dr. Arole, there were many people who were part of this effort and movement. But I think that bound us together is, even if we had differences, there was an understanding that we were working for a larger goal. And so the question of tolerance, the issue of patience, the issue of having a common goal, those were extremely important parts of what we were attempting to do. I think at the national level, in many of the committees, different members of the JSA Jan Swasthya Abhiyan were there, and I think what Dr. Iqbal was mentioning, that the people who were in positions did not only sit on those chairs but were down along with the grassroots people, learning from there what their needs were, what their problems were, and trying to find solutions uh, of for the agenda being set by people on the ground. That was an extremely important part of the people's health movement. And I just want to mention a small thing: helping getting visas in the Salt Lake for the people who went across on buses. Uh, People like Amitav and all played a very, very big role. So National Alliance of People's Movement, National Federation of Indian Women, that large number of women's organizations are putting up the gender issues very centrally in the efforts that were being made by JSA. And I think it is 24, 25 years, and many of us were working together much earlier. And I think that bonding and understanding and mutual respect, Amir, and tolerance to the differences, it came because of having worked together with no selfish goals, but for a bigger, it's not just institutional goal, it's not a personal goal, but basically for a common goal for health for all, especially for the marginalized. And who are the marginalized? Like there are some marginalized that are usually mentioned, but supporting the movements and who were people who were struggling on the ground, whether it was sewage workers, whether it was others, that bringing that from the Dalit movement and all, it was an important contribution to the understanding of people who were involved in issue of health, because of those people being involved and also contributing to the efforts that we're making. So I've not prepared anything, Amir, because last minute you said just join. I'm joining for solidarity. So we continue, uh, being in solidarity and cherishing the comradeship. Dr. Iqbal, I don't know if you remember Jerusalem, that as part of International People's Health Council and have been part of Health Action International Asia Pacific. So we've been part of some of the common international this thing. And so we shouldn't forget that there was something called International People's Health Council. And many of us who are part of JSA have been part of these. Best wishes to all the young people. They have more challenges than what we had. We had more support from many people who thought, alike. So best wishes, solidarity, and the road ahead, we'll all walk together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mira. Um, yeah, so it's a reiterating of solidarity, comradedness, and kind of friendship within JSA. I think that is the important yeah undercurrents we have. So yeah, thank you so much. And we are the highest at this meeting. Like we have highest number of participants now. Yeah. With your permission, can we just go through these photos so that you all know that the seniors know these photos like you are will in and out. But maybe for the younger people and for the new incomers, maybe we can share these photos. So quickly, it's not a presentation. It's just a photos, and we'll go through this, and then we'll come back to our comrades to share their views and kind of journey. So is that okay? So I'll just start. Yeah, the slides are visible.
Yes.
Yeah, you
Yes.
can make it full screen if possible. It's visible.
It is full screen, Abhay, is it not?
No, it's not in the projection mode. But anyway, you
Amir,
can go ahead.
Amir, reshare it, please.
Oh, okay.
First, make it a full screen, then reshare it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
No audio for us. Still okay.
There is no audio, so we'll just go through the slides. These are the booklets Ravi has mentioned. These are the compiled booklets of those 5 booklets into one.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
These are the next set of booklets we produced in 2007. These are the current campaigns we have. These are the posters we made it for the last general election. Fact sheets we have made it for the last general election. Friends, whatever photos we have, we just collated here. And there are many activities happen at the state and the national level, which, as Dr. Iqbal said, we can take this as like an exercise for the next 1 year to at least to document the JSC history at the national and the state level. So we'll try to do that. It's just a beginning. So many photos and many kind of activities we could not list out here. It's just a beginning. So with that, we also wanted to tribute, as Meera was saying again and again, and all of we missed Dr. Bala from Sri Lanka here. So they are all not with us who have started this journey, started this movement. So we remember Dr. Amit, Dr. Jafar Chaudhary, Dr. Sanders, and Dr. Premja, and Dr. Bala too. And then, we lost the Noble Soul from India, Dr. C.S. Verma, the NCC member and convener of the JSAUP. So it is a recent tragedy for us. So I request all of us to remain a minute silence to the remembrance of Dr. C.S. Verma. Thank you all for being silent. And I request Indranil to just say a few words about C.S. Verma, which is, we just have a memory, kind of, still we have memories of C.S. Verma. So maybe like it's worthwhile to remember him at this occasion. So Indranil, just a few words about Dr. C.S. Verma.
Thanks, Amir. It's a really a very special moment at the same of 25 years of celebration of JSA, but at the same time commemorating the work of Dr. Amit and also others, but Dr. C.S. Verma, whom we have worked very closely over last since my association with JSA since 2009. And Dr. Verma had been convening JSA UP's work for all this time and been part of the National Coordination Committee, NCC, JSA NCC, for a long period of time. One of the few people who have demonstrated extreme level of commitment in their academic world as well as being an activist. So academic activists are very exemplary example. He was a graduate PhD from JNU, worked on political economy of health, worked on access to medicine issues, and with BGVS and AIPSN and JSA, numerous campaigns and activities. A great soul, and by heart a very good comrade, great soul, always empathetic to younger comrades, encouraging all of us to do better through his own example. I remember when some others were preparing for the PHA 5, they were all traveling to Argentina. Dr. Verma was supposed to travel to Argentina, and we heard that he cannot make it because he has faced this incurable cancer. Just before this, in February, when he heard, few weeks before he had with other fellow travelers, comrades and friends from JSA UP, had a very wonderful JSA UP convention that he steered there, and he looked very at that point he was we couldn't find anything that he is going to face within a few weeks, such a huge disaster. But throughout the journey, when he was unwell and he was getting treatment from in Delhi Rajiv Gandhi Institute, whenever we made Ashadi, Richa and I, we used to go, and he was positive, and he said, "I'll get better soon. You should not worry." And he continued to give us supports, guided us even during the last NCC meeting. I remember distinctly, he joined briefly. We used to organize in this period also many times workshops where he came, even when he barely could speak, he could join and encourage us. So it is a great soul, and with deep sorrow, we commemorate Dr. Verma and his commitment to People's Health Movement, and we vouch to continue the good work, the example he has set for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Indranil. In the chat, Sarojini also mentioned Ajay Khare, Radha
Yeah.
Bello and all. So we
Yeah,
remember.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, for this people. And friends, before many of us leave, like now we need to share with you the kind of a broad plan for the next 1 year. Then we'll come back to Sarojini and to listen to Andana, Anand, Fatki and all. So maybe briefly, maybe Abhay, can you just show your slides about what is kind of a broad plan for the next 1 year for this 25th year Silver Jubilee year?
Yeah.
So quickly.
I hope you can see the slide.
Yes.
Is it visible? Yeah. Okay. So, of course, it was great to really listen to all of our founders, and each one of them shared very inspiring aspects of the foundation and journey of PHM and JSA. So while we're looking back, we also have to look forward. And so therefore, this is a kind of brief interlude of just a few slides to share about what we are planning in the 25th year of Jan Swasthya Abhiyan in 2025. And this is basically based on the recent JSA NCC meeting, which we had in August. And this August meeting of NCC was attended by around 47 representatives from across the country, from 16 states, 18 national networks and resource groups. And this is the list of the states which all participated in the meeting from across the country. And in this entire meeting, we, through a lot of discussion, came up with some points about how we need to move forward and celebrate the 25th year of JSA by a series of actions, activities, and campaigns. And basically around the right to health and the right to healthcare. Today's current socio-political situation is very challenging. It is complex. In certain ways, it's quite adverse, but at the same time, we're also seeing that the defense of democracy is coming up in different forms, both at the political level and also at the social level, in different forms across the country. And there's also people's issues are being raised in a different way. So in this entire context, we now also need to join our voice as Jan Swasthya Abhiyan to raise the demands on right to health and right to healthcare. By aligning with, and again, as mentioned by the earlier speakers, by reaching out to many more groups, which may not be mainly working on health issues, but which are concerned about people's health from some angle, and taking together a coordinated series of campaigns and actions at the local level, the state level, and at the national levels. As Meera and others mentioned, very importantly, this is a time for coming together. This is a time for coming together despite some of our differences. This is not a time to divide JSA. This is a time to unite everybody within JSA and people who who are part of this entire process and can be part of this process. In fact, to expand JSA as far as possible through a very broad-based mobilization. We may have some differences, we may have some different opinions on some issues, but we are all together when it comes to developing the health movement. So we have thought about 4 themes for campaigns, but this is of course just a suggestion. There may be many more ideas which can be integrated and added to this. The overall theme should be quality healthcare for everyone, our rights and government's responsibility. And basically, once again, voicing the demand that healthcare should be made a fundamental right in the Indian Constitution. And the Constitution of India itself is becoming a very important symbolic and substantive sort of area of debate and also of assertion once again in this country. So we should link our entire slogan of right to healthcare with also the Indian Constitution, drawing upon various existing professions, but also taking it forward. A second important area is reducing people's spending on healthcare. And today people are heavily spending on healthcare in all sections of society, the poor, the lower middle class, the middle class, in different ways. And during COVID, we have seen the entire experience. And this involves, so how do we minimize people's spending on healthcare, which is causing so much impoverishment? 6 crore people being pushed below the poverty line every year. So basically ensuring that care in public health services is actually and genuinely completely free. Whether it is medicines or diagnostics or other aspects of care, no user fees and also no informal or other kinds of additional payment should be involved. Secondly, the private healthcare sector, it must be regulated. The costs, the prices, or the rates of treatment must be regulated through either Clinical Establishment Act or other similar acts, which must be pushed for their implementation. And in fact, on 20th of December, we are having a Northern Region program in Delhi, where we'll be demanding the implementation of the Clinical Establishments Act. And thirdly, the prices of medicines, which has been taken up since so many years in different forms by MFC, by IDAN, by JSA, and by other like-minded groups. All these 3 fronts of action need to be covering both the public and private healthcare sector, need to be taken up to minimize people's spending on healthcare. And the third very important area for our campaigns should be that no one should be deprived of healthcare and everyone should be treated with dignity. Today, when social polarization, different kinds of social divisions, and also hierarchies are being reimposed, we need to very strongly assert that women, Dalits, Adivasis, Muslim communities, LGBTQ persons, and all other kinds of marginalized groups or deprived groups, they deserve healthcare with dignity and with respect. No discrimination. Right to healthcare involves not just a provision of some kind of healthcare, but that healthcare must be with dignity and without any discrimination. And the fourth is also very important: health workers for people and people for health workers. So whether it is Ashas and Anganwadi workers working at the village level, nurses, resident doctors, paramedics, various other kind of frontline health workers working in hospitals, in health centers, they are also facing a huge range of challenges with privatization, contractualization, and so on. And therefore, we need to strengthen our alliances with all categories of health workers, not just at the at the community level, but even we're seeing that resident doctors today across the country are facing a whole range of issues. So we need to build some common ground, demanding both health system strengthening and justice to health workers and strengthening of the public health services in a comprehensive way. So in 2025, what we have discussed is that across the country, wherever JSA is active, we need to organize state-level JSA meetings in the next couple of months with a broader mobilization and preparing our state-wise campaign plans. Each state's situation is different. Each state, the priorities are also somewhat different, but there is some commonality, as I just mentioned. So organization building and state-wise campaign planning needs to be done. And also a series of national webinars on various key health topics. We have a whole range of about 7-8 thematic groups. So they can also maybe every month or frequently organize national webinars for orientation of all our members. So for example, on digitalization and health, already one webinar has recently been organized by the thematic group. Similarly, on other areas also, such webinars need to be organized. And wherever possible, organizing state level surveys or fact findings on the current status of people's access to health services, the issues that people are facing, and preparing state level health reports if possible. And then in 2025, these are going to be some of the activities that we should definitely try to do. Organizing state health assemblies or other major state health level health programs where we release our state level health reports or voice our health policy demands and bring together other political and social stakeholders and dialogue with them to socialize our demands. And this is something that we discussed, but we need to further refine this idea of organizing something like a people's health parliament. The parliament itself today has become a very contentious institution, but we know that there needs to be a political will for health, and therefore, as a symbolic act, if we can organize a national event, which is like a people's health parliament, and where delegates come from across the country and raise the demands from their states, from their regions, from their districts, and this kind of health parliament can raise the entire proposal of making healthcare a fundamental right, and also a whole range of other people-centered health policies, which would be taken up by the media, by various political parties, by social organizations, and will widen and once again strongly highlight the need for health, people's health to become a political and social agenda for the right to health and the right to healthcare to be established. So this is very briefly what we have discussed. There are, of course, many, many more issues which will come up in each state, in each region, and also on various thematic fronts, which we will continue to discuss. But I think that the 25th year, all of us would agree, is a very good occasion to once again reclaim healthcare and health, and to broaden the health movement and to strengthen Jan Swasthya Abhiyan across the country. Thanks.
Thank you, Abhay, for just briefing us what we decided in NCC and all. And in today's meeting also, there are a lot of very important suggestions that come starting from Dr. Iqbal to Bharat Health March and recording of documenting stories of large networks, as Ravi said, documenting JSA state and national units. So all these things are kind of are also came up. Let's see how do we take it up and how much we can do. And with that, I invite Vandana Prasad, who is also, you have seen one, she's there in one of the photos which we showed in Bangladesh, and like right from the beginning she was there, and she's taking it further.
Never made it there. I was in Calcutta.
Kolkata, okay, it was Kolkata photo. Okay, yeah. So I invite Vandana, please go ahead.
Yeah. So thanks very much for inviting me. I mean, I think this is an open JSA meeting after a very long time, and that itself is a very positive sign. JSA and a lot of the people who are attending this meeting today, the founder members and the erstwhile joint conveners, they've been very, very important for me personally in my understanding of health issues and the way that I have grown as an activist and achieved understanding and better understanding. I think they have really, I mean, I want to name a few in particular, Sundar and Amit, who pulled and pushed me in the first 10 or 15 years of my 30-year-long now, participation in social action. So I think JSA has, a lot to talk about in terms of celebrating itself. But somehow I must say that today, when I joined this meeting, I am not in a mood for nostalgia. I'm not in a mood to go down memory lane. I'm not in a mood to be self-congratulatory because I think that having been out of the NCC for a while and being still participant in many of the health struggles that are going around in the country, I think that the context is one in which we need to really kind of tighten our belts and to look at what we are facing and to move ahead. Now, I don't think any organization, network campaign can move ahead without really knowing what it is and what it's not and what the strengths and limitations might be. And recognizing those with humility. I mean, there are strengths and there are also limitations. So I think that a critical self-analysis is very much required to move forward for any institution. And unfortunately, in the beginning part of this, introduction to our history, I didn't get much hint of that at all. I know that this is an open meeting, but I think that at some point, kind of a more reflective kind of analysis of our journey would be interesting, because as I said, my relationship with JSA has been very intense and very meaningful, and it continues to be so. But it has not been uncritical, and I think that criticality is something that we do not shirk from in a group of comrades, because we're all strong people. We're all strong people. That's why we're here. We don't have fancy put around things. We don't have to put around each other, and we have to be diplomatic necessarily. I think that I hope that in this coming year or so, we are able to have very many open conversations about our own strengths and limitations and how we could have done things better. And so on. So I just want to mention a few, like in my perception of what JSA has been. Two things I want to say to mute, please. The people
Friends, others can mute yourself, please. There are some disturbance.
I think that
So,
one thing that we have done, we did that very NRHM and during NRHM times, and also in recent times. I think that has been a very, very. I mean, there's a sharp intellectual activity that JSA has put forth in being able to provide alternate visions, in being able to analyze, to investigate, and to be able to articulate things very, very sharply. And I think that is something that we have to hang on to. It's been very important, not just for us, but for the world outside of us that is also struggling with health and healthcare and health issues, as well as health activism. So I think that that component of that sharp intellectual quality needs to be retained and maintained. The other thing that I think that we've been strong on has been that we have worked largely on, and that's also a limitation. It's also a weakness. We've worked in institutions. Now, those institutions are sometimes government and quasi-governmental, as many have mentioned. These institutions have been in academic, areas, like I said, with our sharp intellectual capacity for research, for articulation, for being able to bring evidence to the point of policy. And the third institution has been the NGO institution, because we know that we've been very strongly led by strong health-related NGOs. And again, that is a strength, but also a limitation. So I think that these have been our strengths and our contributions. I would say that the question that arises, which is very important, is what have been our struggles? Where have we struggled? How much have we been able to struggle? Where have we fought? Where have we actually stood up and fought? And that it's not that there have been no fights. And it's not that the intellectual work is not meaningful. I mean, I'm not at all trying to deny that. Please, I'm part of it. I'm party to it. But where have been the struggles? Where has been the participation on the ground? How much of the work that we bring out, our outputs, actually reach beyond us? Are we perhaps too insular have we been? How much are we able to reach out and extend and make the fruits of our labor like meaningful to people who are actually struggling on the ground? These are the questions that remain for us to kind of answer. How many people have we mentored? How many leaders have come up who have not necessarily been with JSA but can trace their association as leaders to JSA in some sense, like I do. Even if I don't necessarily call myself a representative of JSA, I am very, very sure that I can trace whatever I'm doing and saying to my history in JSA and the participation that I've been privileged to in JSA. I was very happy to see the themes that you have produced, because they bear the seeds of actual action happening. And that is really, I mean, what I'm trying to drive at, that's going to be the most meaningful thing. I just few words that I think that we can add children to women, please, if possible. And we must continue to, like I said, the part of the struggles is fighting case by case battles. I mean, just 2 days ago, it came from NFIW, a women's organization, a mass organization. Mumps is coming up in there, that's what their own grassroots activists are talking about. Children are getting mumps. Now, JSA must contribute. So I think that this contribution as experts, I think Iqbal was very correct to mention that there is an expertise, like I said, there's some intellectual activity that we are really good at. And to translate that into policy, into action of various varieties. But we've got to link with the mass organization for the needs that are arising and be able to service them better. And that can happen only by case work, because the mass organizations are not going to be bringing up policy issues. They're going to be bringing up actual problems that they're facing. And that is where our contribution must come. And if we falter there, then I think the intellectual activity really doesn't add up. So I'm really strongly pushing for this point. I want to end here. I know that people have asked me to speak about various other comrades who are no longer with us, but it's not just one, it's not just two, it's so many. who have contributed in different ways. I think it's part of our problem that they don't necessarily gain visibility in our campaign. So I don't want to name names. I mean, Radha's name has come up as well as many others. I think our connection with other campaigns, Right to Food campaign, I convened a very effective group called the Working Group for Children Under 6. That again lapsed because of some, theoretical, notion that we put forth about rotation and convenership and so on and so forth, which has been our struggles and our contradictions, and we try things, we fail also. But I think that this link that we had with the Right to Food campaign, which still persists, the link that we have potentially to women's organization, to trade unions, I think that these are the things to highlight as a group of experts. So I think that it would be flawed to kind of interpret us as a movement, really, in the way that I interpret the word movement. But we have remained a resource organization, a very important resource organization. But the links that we have formally maintained with mass organizations, they have to be maintained if you're going to be relevant in the world as it currently is, and the kind of bitter world it currently is, where I think that spending too much time in, kind of being a bit romantic about our history and how fantastic we've been, and all we have been in many ways. And to us personally, it's been very meaningful. But I think to look at it in the context of the outside world and where we are today, we are very small, we're very limited. I feel that after the NRHM, we have actually become more limited. But I see the signs of rejuvenation. I see the signs of energy, and I really welcome it. And people like me are with you. I don't consider that we are outside of this scene of action even today. So please bring me in as and when you feel that I can contribute. I'm with you when it comes to action. And I think that there's a lot to be kind of grateful for in this comradeship and friendship that we have. But we are not here for the purposes of friendship. We are not here. We're here for social change. We're not here to be friends with each other. We can be friends with each other for life, and we will be outside of this campaign and outside of any movement. The movement and the campaign exists to make social change happen in this country for health for all. That's where I want to end. Thank you very much again. I might have to leave in between.
Thank you, Vandana. Thank you, Vandana. Starting from self-critical, how much people we have reached outside our own circle, and emphasizing our linkage as a kind of intellectual forum to the mass movement. I think that's beautifully said. Thank you for that. And with that, can I invite Sarojini? She's also kind of senior and showing the responsibility right from the beginning, from India to globe and all. So maybe we can hear Sarojini what she said. Please.
Thanks, Samir. Thanks, everyone. I think it's quite energizing to be a part of this today. It's difficult to speak, one particular aspect or, moment in the last 22 years of JSA history for me. I came in 1999 and 2000 with my colleagues Anuj Kapilashrami, Shrikala, Joyita Chaudhary and all that, and joined by Binu, Parul, Deepa, Rinju, and many more from Sama, in fact. I wasn't in Savar because I was expecting that time Paki, but I was there in Kolkata, even though I was 8.5 months pregnant. I just wanted to be there. Yeah, and Anuj and Joyita joined the bus journey from Kolkata to Savar. So that is something, a milestone for me, being there and listening to, all the speeches at the Maidan. I think it is sometimes, very important to remember, to re-energize and to think about that kind of camaraderie, why we came together, irrespective of diverse backgrounds, diverse movements, what tried to bring us together. That is something very, very important for me. I think that is something which I would like to see even in the long run. Of course, I want to remember Amit, definitely. He was somebody who was there for the last many, many years, anchoring with others. And I was also inspired by the work at that point of time. If I'm to talk about a couple of examples, is about the booklet. Sundar spoke, Ravi spoke about it. I think sometimes, we may not remember, but they are still very, very relevant. I really wish the young people to, the people who joined recently or who may not have seen these booklets have, it's not just the process which went into that, or it's not just the contribution of, only Tamil Nadu Science Forum, of course, Balaji, Kalpana, Sundar, and many more. Every bit of it is very, very, very important. That's where I try to learn, connecting with the public health movement coming from women's movement. Because I was a part of MFC, and I used to wonder, like, there is MFC, there is ADAN, and there are many more other initiatives. So what did this JSA, kind of question used to come up. But then one realized we need, what Vandana tried to remind us, in action. We always thought MFC is mostly debating and thinking and may not be so much action oriented lately, but JSA will, bring in that into, particularly, for me, bringing the enabling the bottom up democracy, that is what one looked for within Jan Swasthya Abhiyan, the pluralism, the inclusivity, and the, that kind of bottom up democracy. That is what, which is very, very important. I really hope that will remain forever, in JSA. It is a moment for me. I never seen JSA as an organization, though we had other governance structures. But for me, initially, it was a movement which evolved from a process of bringing together, various community-based initiatives or social movements or women's groups, all that we have already, mentioned. But that is coming with a common interest and sharing a common political agenda, which is mentioned by Dr. Iqbal as well. For me, it is actually, even now I feel it is an intersectional movement. Yesterday, I was there at Anita Ghai's memorial, Professor Anita Ghai, who is a part of the women's movement, who is also a disability rights activist lately, but we always seen as, but she showed a lot of interest in Jan Swasthya Abhiyan at one point of time. In fact, she was there at our Asia Social Forum in 2004, and she went to Cuenca, Ecuador. I'm sure Ravi and Deepa and all will remember Narendra. So yesterday I was just thinking of, how we try to bring in, even that aspect which was missing even in the presentation today. We didn't bring in disability at all. We spoke about, queer and caste and religion, but this is also something we need to add. We need to look into. That's where we try to bring in that intersectional kind of representation within JSA. So this is something which I felt, very unique to JSA, and all the, the earlier processes, whether it is the, before the uh, SAVR or after that, the National Health Assemblies or the World Social Forum, where we played an active role, or the Asia Social Forum. These were all learning processes, which those spaces may not be there, that kind of space right now, but we need to create those spaces. I think that is very, very important. Whatever way we can, it is not just the finance thing. What Sundar said is very, very important. Our Ravi said, it's not just nostalgia, the train journeys, even within the autonomous women's movement. Whenever we had our national conference of autonomous women's movement, we need to just get into the train. No money, no ticket. Sometimes we need to negotiate with the railway ministry and then get that kind of thing, or just get into the train. So it was so empowering, when you are young, and then like this is something which everybody was joining at every station, and then going to Calcutta was like amazing. And that happened even within other movements as well. So it's nothing to do with money alone all the time. At the same time, you required finances too. That's not something to romanticize, that we all like voluntary. We need to raise resources to take care of the accommodation, food, and everything, which we keep doing for many, many years. So I thought those are very, very important anecdotes. Uh, we differed, of course. There was no such women's health agenda, but one tried to bring in that. There were many, many differences later, how do we make sure like this can be here, or the frictions between women's rights groups and also JSA in the context of sex selection in the beginning, I still remember. But there was some kind of coming together, try to understand from each other. Yeah. So one tried to build that bridge between women's movement and the health movement. That's where I learned a lot. For me, the other important milestone is about the it may be later years on the public tribunals which we had, where we played very, very important role, all of us from the states to the national level, which actually led to the bringing back the, rural health, focus on to that community health, where we prepared the draft with the UPA government at that point of time. That became a fundamental kind of draft for the NRHM. I think that's something we should also, keep in mind. We could influence the state to make sure that there is, of course, what happened later is a different story, but we could come to that extent where we could come up with the draft document, which emerged from our processes, from JSA process. So that is something very, very, a valuable um, achievement for me within JSA. So that is where I would like to, place myself. I learned a lot. Of course, I also gave a lot of time, energy, and also my own understanding the politics, not only me, even entire Sama as well. Uh, so this is something which I would like to see even in the long run, like how do we make sure that, more action oriented, definitely. And I know like there are differences. I know, the kind of situation where we are right now, but can we come up with this common goal, to make sure that let us not, get succumbed to this kind of external environment which we are right now. I think this is something we should remember. We should come together and we need to address these structural issues within the state policy and then make sure the accountability of the state and also the corporate giants. This is something we need to keep in mind on the health inequity and disparity we need to talk about. So these are the few things. Maybe when we do the documentation of state level and also at the national level, in the next 1 year, we can keep talking, writing about our own experiences and challenges. Thank you. Thanks so much. Over to you, Amir.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Sarojini. Richa?
Yeah. Thanks, Sarojini. Thanks, Amit. I'm here in Sarguja, so the connectivity is a little poor. But thanks a lot, Sarojini and other speakers. Sarojini's talked about coming together and especially against the forces that are against people. And I hope that JSA would continue working like this in the future. With this, I would like to invite another old timer in our group in JSA who's uh, been there right from the beginning. I would like to invite Anant to share his thoughts now. Anant, over to you, please. Anant?
I mean Anand Phadke or some other Anand?
Yeah, Anant Phadke, yes, of course. Yeah, please go ahead.
JSA Anant is Anant Phadke only.
There's only
Nice.
one Anant here.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks,
Anyway, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. So already actually 7:30, the time is up, and the mail had said that we have only 5 to 7 minutes each. So I will be just restricting myself within the time frame that was given. So I've written up something and I will skip all other things and just because things which have been already said, I don't think there's no point me repeating it. Can you hear me? Am I a little too fast?
No, we can hear it.
Okay. So I will skip other things, but basically stick myself within 5 to 7 minutes for the broad overview of how I look upon JSA. So in the year 2000, all of us, that is health organizations working on health issues of healthcare, as well as issues of social organizations were working on social determinants of health. The two broad kinds of organizations were there. We all came together to form Jan Swasthya Abhiyan. There were other organizations, all India ones, local ones, including MFC at the national level, etc. But coming together was a big thing forward. And this was done through a process of social mobilization, not just a meeting. but there was a social mobilization like the Jathas and other kinds of programs, and that culminated into the Kolkata meet. We all belong to diverse social political backgrounds, as has been basically referred to by many people. And lastly, I think we also contributed to the global process of coming together of people's health groups. So I think this was a very important milestone in the people's health movement in India. Not that the people's health movement in India did not exist earlier, but JSA, we all came together and formed a coalition. Secondly, though we belong to different social political perspectives to a certain extent within pro-people framework, we all discussed at length and came out with this 20-point People's Health Charter, which was also a major milestone. And the JSA Charter included both the major policy demands, both related to radical improvements in healthcare as well as social determinants of health, not only healthcare. And this is very important. As regards healthcare is concerned, we took note of political economy of healthcare and specifically about privatization, corporatization of healthcare under the rule of finance capital. And therefore, we have been demanding right from the early days, radically strengthen public health services along with its direct accountability to the people. So we're not saying we just want a bureaucratized public health services that exist in many parts of India, but we want it to strengthen as well as be directly accountable to the people. Then we have been demanding regulation of private sector right from the early days through a dedicated, transparent and accountable regulatory structure. All the 3 points are important. It has to be a dedicated structure, it has to be accountable, and it has to be transparent. And this is far, far beyond what the defunct and bureaucratized CEA that has been enacted in some states. So I think walking on two legs, public health services and private health services, as well as regulating the determinants of health, I think we have very, very broad framework which goes to the heart of the healthcare policy in India. Now, all these above demands have basically asked for changes in government policies. And in that sense, they are political demands. Like many demands, many of the people's health demand, many of the people's movement demands are political. But this is certainly because there is a character to it. Because like take, for example, education for all. This is a demand which affects, we represent the interest of all common interests of all common people. It is not a sectional demand. And therefore, it has a special political potential, the demand of healthcare for all. For example, take the demands of, say, farmers or transport workers or agricultural workers. They are very important, just demands, but they belong to sectional demands from where other people may or may not join. But healthcare for is a demand in which all common people have a common interest, and therefore we have been sort of banking upon it. These are all very positive features of our work, and we should be very proud of all that we have done. But what I would like to say that we have remained largely as an advocacy coalition. We have not been consistently a mass movement, except in certain states, maybe perhaps partly in Kerala. But we have, of course, been people's spokespersons on healthcare, as well as on social determinants of health. We have been presenting our demands, our criticisms, our concerns in various ways to influence public opinion. We have been raising awareness among people about policy changes. We have been using spaces available in the media, in the political spaces to influence certain bureaucrats, certain politicians also. But we have not been able to launch a powerful mass movement which forces the government to change its policies. Now, it is asking too much, but the situation is so bad that unless we get into this, whether we can do it or I do not know, but unless there is a mass political movement around healthcare politics that we are talking about, the kind of advocacy work that we are doing, which is very important, very positive, I think is far, far inadequate. So we started with a bang, but we have remained primarily an advocacy coalition. Going beyond this, we have to have mass awareness programs like mass signature campaigns, innovative forms of mass protest. Our 20-point charter will continue to have very limited influence. We cannot merely say, this is my last point, that this is the work of pro-people political parties. We know that they are not sufficiently clear about it, and we know that they do not have the strength also. So it is not that they should do it, we help them. No, we have to take initiative. We have to contribute ourselves to the work of raising awareness among people on the political demands. And because situation is becoming from bad to worse, and therefore, unless we do that, of course, we need a discussion on it. Do we agree that we need to forward beyond primarily awareness and advocacy work? Do we really want to? Do we think of making a powerful mass movement? For example, around the demand of including healthcare as a fundamental right in the constitution? If yes, then what changes we'll have to make within our organization, within our framework? I think we need to discuss this. Therefore, at the end, I would say, while being proud of our work that we have done in last 24 years, we need to be aware of its limitations and decide to make progress. Otherwise, we will continue to have very limited influence. Yes, we have very limited influence, and our slogan, healthcare for all and health for all, would continue to be a distant dream. So I suppose as we take note of our many good things that we have done, I think the situation is so desperately bad that we also need to see what is very much needed in the current situation. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Anand. Thanks a lot. Point well taken that JSA has been doing a very important work, and many of the constituents of JSA have taken up mass work also. But we need to give JSA more of a character of a mass. I mean, for the mass political activities, we need to do that, of course, and that is what we intend to do in the coming months, years from now on. We have sort of right to health campaign has been launched in a few states, so we'll discuss about it further. But yes, point well taken, and thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. With this, I would like to invite another strong pillar of JSA, Renu Khanna. She's been there for as long, many years as I can remember, and it'll be great to hear from Renu, who's been part of the women's movement also, and JSA also. Yes, Renu, please, if you can. Is Renu, I can't see Renu. Is Renu there, Amir?
I don't see her name here
I
now.
can't see her.
I saw her.
Yeah.
She was there.
Okay, maybe she has had to drop.
Yeah. You can invite other.
Yeah. Bhai sent a message. Claudio might be joining now. Shall we wait for Claudio Shuftan?
No, I think we should continue, but hopefully he'll join. I just talked with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll wait for Claudio to join, and meanwhile, I would now request Narendra ji to kindly share his thoughts. He's also one of our old timers, and please, Narendra, if you could share your thoughts on this occasion.
Mute myself. Okay.
Yes.
So compliments to all of us to have traveled 25 years within Jan Swasthya Abhiyan and have done multiple things during this period of 25 years. For me personally, it was a transition, or I would say a continuity of the process which began in Medico Friend Circle, which I joined sometime in 1981. I saw that Medico Friend Circle, while was a thought current where we were discussing the issues, I thought Jan Swasthya Abhiyan is an action part of whatever we have been thinking and conceptualizing and building perspectives on health. So this is what precisely began to happen. And of course, I became part of JSA since it was formed. So in the state of Rajasthan, where I am, we organized district health inquiries and a state convention, and then finally joined the national convention in Kolkata. Of course, I didn't go to Savar at that time because of other preoccupations for me. But many of my friends from Rajasthan did go to Savar. So this is what uh, the thing is, and then incidentally, it so happened that Dr. Iqbal one day called me over the phone and he said that JSA has been asked to have an active role into WHO's Commission for Social Determinants of Health, and we would like you to be part of it on behalf of JSA. So Amit and I were both together into this, and we organized many events on this issue of social determinants of health in many different countries of South Asia. And so my understanding about health, and health not only related to our country or my own state, but also in many other similar kind of countries evolved during this period. I would say that JSA has been of course, it looks a very cohesive group, but it also has a very huge diversity. And essentially, this diversity emanates from the fact that health in India is a state subject. It's not a central subject. We have been, stressing quite a lot and perhaps aiming our guns or whatever, our whatever we want to say or comment or do things at the national level. And national level, till this government came in power, was very receptive to our ideas, because as has been said already, that many of the ideas which JSA, Medico Friendship had been talking since a long time were, taken up during the formulation of National Rural Health Mission, and later on also. For me personally, and also the group through which I work here in Rajasthan this had been a tremendous, forum for us to take many issues forward here in the state of Rajasthan. As you know, that in 2011, Rajasthan became the second state which very openly and clearly and in a very committed form launched free medicine scheme. And matter, JSA of Rajasthan. Similarly, with that, again, there was this free diagnostics scheme, which was again the persuasion of JSA, and then, of course, this to Health Act, which has been passed, but of course not so far put into practice. It is exactly like Clinical Establishment Act passed and rules even framed, but it's still not enforced. So this is what it is, but it's had been a wonderful journey, and to be part of Jan Swasthya Abhiyan and meeting all these people from different parts of the country, and also people from other countries, as I could participate in some of the public health assemblies happened in different parts of the world. So I think now the task before us is that there's tremendous health inequalities, as we all know. And if you have read that 2 days back, this Professor Thomas Piketty said that India is the most unequal country economically, just above South Africa. So if it is economically unequal, it is unequal also for health reasons. And task before us for this matter is that how we, campaign and work for common healthcare system for everyone in this country. Unless that doesn't happen, things, even if the act is passed, act is implemented, these inequalities and these differentiation between access to healthcare are going to remain. And till these differentiations remain, inequalities are not to disappear. So my suggestion would be that how we began to campaign and make overall perspective and a narrative, I would say, that why it is very essential and very, very important. It's, as this fellow, Professor Thomas Piketty said that if you remove inequality, you will grow much more than what you are. Similarly, if you remove health inequality, you will again grow far more than what you are. So it is for the good of everyone. And why is this not happening, and why is this narrative not getting built is something very, causes me lots of confusion in my mind, that why it's not appealing to people. So we need to make this very appealing to people, and for that, and India is in such situation that these things could be done, as has been shown very clearly by the state of Rajasthan, which doesn't have very high gross state domestic product, but still it could ensure absolutely free medical care to everyone in the state of Rajasthan in all public hospitals, starting from the basics to the most sophisticated kind of uh, surgical interventions or in other kind of investigations. So we need to work on this and build a strong narrative for a common health system. And this is what I just wanted to say about uh, what I have learned and thought, could think about in terms of how we ensure health for all now. So this is what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Narendra. I know that we all know that the health for all goal is still unreachable. It has still not been reached, and the rising inequalities are a major concern in today's times. I think we need to work towards that, both in the states, as you mentioned, and at the national level in India. JSA needs to work. Uh, and of course, globally, and for this, PHM has been active globally also. And one of our comrades, Claudio Shiftan, has been one of the guiding lights internationally. Claudio has joined us, and Claudio is situated in Vietnam, but he's present globally. So, with this, I would like to invite Claudio to share some of his thoughts on this occasion when JSA completes 25 years. Claudio, please, thanks for joining us and kindly share your thoughts with all of us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's so good to be
Yeah.
among some of the people that were all with us 25 years ago, where we had less white hair or hair at all. Narendra has lost his. Hi, Narendra. Very good to see you after so many years. I will call my short presentation a journey beyond hope. I was involved since 1998 in the process of preparing, but that's not what I'm going to talk about. I would like to start with a number of emails that came in 1999 saying that there were going to be some regional meetings, local and regional meetings of JSA nascent in India, and that there would be this fantastic idea of 3 converging trains that will go to Kolkata, where in Kolkata we would have the first JSA meeting ever. This made me have a lot of fantasies about how this was going to do, and I told my wife, we will join one of those trains. So I got in touch with the people in Chennai, and Comrade Bajit was the first one who I contacted, and I said, look, I'm interested in coming to participate in the Chennai JSA, and then in Kolkata, and of course, then I'm going to Savar. So actually today I was looking at some old emails and then found an email in which it says, I have contacted Prem and asked him if he was going to be there during the preparations of the JSA in Chennai and if you could stay with him. And Harry is actually traveling, but she just told me you are very welcome to stay with them, even if they are not there, just they will arrive about a day after you are there. So the warmth was already there. I arrived in the house of Hari and Prem with my wife, and we had a few days before the activities started in the Chennai JSA. The Chennai JSA had a little bit of a problems to get organized, but it was then a very massive meeting in which a number of the documents that had been prepared were endorsed, and the plans were made for this train ride from Chennai to Kolkata. The day arrived, and we were all fired up to go, and somehow the comrades had arranged in a way that we would have 2 or 3 wagons in the train that does that particular route from Chennai north. And we got in there. The spirits were very high. There were singing. There were a lot of people embracing that hadn't seen each other for a long time. And the train went on to the north, a long trip. And we organized a number of seminars in the train. And we could see, since we had like 3 wagons occupied, the people converged when we announced these, and I particularly held 1 or 2. They came and they were sitting on the berths there and listening, and the corridors were crowded. We had to speak very loud so that people could, and there was a dialogue, and there was a question and answers and discussions, very much part in the global issues that we were facing and we were going to face in Savar, as well as the Indian issues, which were probably as acute as they are today. The big surprise was that when we were arriving in major train stations in major cities, there were a few people who knew that we were coming and sort of had put some placards and waiting for us. So we went out, massive. I mean, we must have been 80, 90 people, perhaps 100, I don't know. And we held a rally on the side of the train for the 20 minutes or whatever that the train would stop over there, and chanted our slogans, explained to the people who looked at us as crazy people why we were there, what we were going to do, and what we were looking forward to, and what we were worried about the situation in India in health. And then we went to the next station, and the bigger cities, we repeated this 2 or 3 times before arriving in Kolkata. In Kolkata, the company, the people in JSA had contacted the group of the Communist Party in Kolkata, which at that time was very strong. I don't know how strong they are today. And the street rally was organized. For my wife and myself, the biggest event there was that when we arrived at the hotel that the comrades had arranged for us, whom did I meet in the lobby? Halfdan Mahler, with whom we spent many days, my wife and I, because we were in the same hotel, we had meals together, we had the chance to acquaint ourselves and become friends, a friendship that lasted until his death. Every time I was in Geneva, which was quite frequent after PHA1, I would visit Halfdan and we would have a lunch together by the lake near his house. And the comrades had organized a march, quite massive. I would have said that, I don't know, probably 10, 20,000 people marched through the streets of Kolkata. And the march ended up in a big podium in the center of town, in which people began doing speeches. The comrades from India did, the people from Kolkata. And all of a sudden, somebody kicked me with the elbow and says, "Now it's your turn." I didn't know really what to do. I jumped in the podium, which was actually very elevated, probably like 5 meters or above ground, and improvised some kind of a speech I don't remember very well. And then we had the JSA in a stadium in the next day, or I don't remember how many days after that, probably the next day. That was a very well organized thing. The trains had all converged. The regional people, the local people had time to prepare their presentations. The organization was set for the JSA India, and probably was already prepared from before, but that's where it all came together. And we spent, I don't remember, somebody helped me, 2 days perhaps, or 3, I don't know, before there were some booklets that were done with cartoons and everything that explained the situation and what PHM was all about and what the situation in India was. Ravi Narayan, I think, had been very influential in preparing those 5 booklets I think we had. I think I still have copies of them in hard copy. The time came to separate because some of us could fly from Kolkata to Dhaka, but some of the comrades either couldn't afford it, or I don't know if there were some visa problems. They traveled by bus, several buses, many buses, I don't know. And as far as I remember, they did have a problem in the border, so that they arrived, somebody correct me, a day or 2 late at the big PHA1 because of this incident that the buses couldn't get through. But finally we made it, and the rest is history. We had Savar, which was this communal farm and whatever it was. And for those of you who were there, the building that had been under construction, lo and behold, was not ready. And with the optimism of our dear comrades from Bangladesh, they says, don't worry, it's going to be ready by the time we start. And we looked at the building, the building looked pretty unfinished yet, but they worked 24 hours. And the day of the opening, as far as you can remember, those who were there, the facility was open. It was not perfect, but it was livable, and the main halls were workable. And that's the beginning of PHA1. And that's where the Indian delegation was probably one of the biggest of all. And that plasminated what JSA is today. After this, JSA was the one national circle that worked well. It has taken us many years for other national circles to begin working well. I have to say that there is one exception that I want to pay homage here, Sri Lanka. Through the efforts of Comrade Sirimal, PHM Sri Lanka has been active ever since. And I have to mention that because besides JSA, they are the longest working, regularly working PHM circle, sorry. This is my story. From those of you who know, after PHA1, we have decided to make it PHM, and nothing much happened. Unfortunately, the people in PHM Bangladesh were exhausted from the preparation of all this. We had 2 or 3 years that nothing was happening, and that's when in the steering council we had the idea to start PHM Exchange. And ever since that, I have been in charge of moderating PHM Exchange, which at least kept some of us together. We had the email addresses of everybody who had been in Savar, so we started with that. Today, we have more than 4,500 readers of PHM Exchange, and it's still going strong. And this is the story that I wanted to share with you. Thank you. I see Sarojini having a nice smile, remembering all this.
Indeed. We all have nice smiles on our faces, though some of us have not switched on the video. But it was so nice to go through some nice anecdotes from the journey of JSA and PHM. It was great to hear from you, and we draw strength from what all you've said the first time in Savar and the last time we all met in Savar in 2018. It was a wonderful experience for many of the young people like me. Thank you so much, Claudio, for joining us and sharing all these nice anecdotes. This gives us strength. Thank you. With this, I would like to hand over back to Amir. Amir, could you take over now.
Yeah. Thanks, Richa. Thanks, Claudio. It's it's interesting to listen. Like, no, you started your journey from Chennai to PHA, so it's where I live from. Thank you so much for that, reminding us. And friends, actually, the PHM Global Circle was very happy that we are having this meeting today. And they published it in their website and they circulated in all the WhatsApp group of PHM country circles and all. The very basic reason is like JSA is considered as one of the region, is not a country in PHM circle, and it's an important circle, important region in PHM history. So with that, and Claudio and all kind of keeping it together, and Mr. Roman, who is the current global coordinator, could not join with us today as he is traveling, but he sent a message to us, voice message. I just play it here. As a global solidarity for JSA. It's a 2 minutes audio. I'll just play it.
Dear GSA comrades, I'm sorry, I can't join your celebration because traveling, just arriving to Amsterdam. But for me, it is very important to say you that I feel that my heart is with you in this 25th anniversary of GSA. You are an example for all of us, for people in Asia, but also for the people of the whole global South. Our struggle for the right to health has a strong meaning with your participation. And this 25th year of struggle for health is an example of on how we can maintain the commitment for changing the world, changing the situation in our countries in order for the right to health to be a reality. I have in my memory very important people in the history of GSA, as it was Amit Sengupta, who I knew in Bangladesh in 2018. I talked with him about the Bangladesh situation at the moment and the relationship of many of South Asian countries with the world. So thank you for being alive, for maintaining the memory of PHM in your struggle. And thank you for allowing all our main leaders of PHM and GSA to have a say today in this important day. I embrace you, I love you, and I think we will continue struggling for the right to health, for peace, and for hope in this difficult moment in the world.
Thank you, Roman, and for this wonderful message from the middle of journey. So with that, can we open up the floor? Any of our JSA comrades wanted to speak, wanted to share, kind of, with a couple of sentences of your journey or your kind of, plan to celebrate this 25th year. So with that, Suhas, are you there? Maybe I'll start with Suhas.
Yeah, I would just want to remind everyone that as JSA, we used to sing a lot, and you cannot have a movement without songs which connect to the larger society. So please, all the team which is going to take JSA ahead, learn the movement songs, and that will be a good way to reach out to people. That's all I wanted to share. Thanks. Could you hear me, Amir?
Yes, yes, yes. Please go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Oh, sorry.
Thank
I
you.
lost the question. Sorry.
Thanks for the chance.
Thank you. Any of our other comrades wanted to say something on this occasion? Shankar or someone? Okay.
I mean,
Sankara, please go ahead.
no, I didn't share anything, but I want to salute to all the lead founders who have been shared a lot of their experiences and their journey towards building JSC has become a movement in India. It's really very marvelous, and I respect all those people who found this movement. And we have a lot of challenges to give right now. We have in the forthcoming years. So since we have a very good political agenda, and even the political climate itself is not in a very convenient to us, so we need to strengthen ourselves to to achieve our political agenda. And wish you all the best for the route, and we take forward the 25th year agendas at the whole speed. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Deepa, yeah, anyone wanted to say?
To all.
Thank you, Shankar. Satyavan, are they? Okay. Yeah, maybe like even Prabir, you wanted to say something? I'm just calling people like if they wanted to say something.
I think Claudio raised his hand, Amir.
Yeah, please, Claudia, go ahead, please. I didn't see that.
Yes, I just wanted to take 30 seconds to pay homage to somebody whom we owe being here today, and that is Dr. Bala. Dr. Bala, for those of you who don't know, is a Sri Lankan pharmacist with many years of work in WHO, who during an ACHAN meeting in Thailand that Prem had organized who launched the idea that we should perhaps some of us get together to get a PHA, a People's Health Assembly, by the year 2000 to counter the slogan Health for All by the year 2000. And basically during that assembly, we should have said why we are not getting there and what needs to be done to get there. So I want to pay homage to Dr. Bala, who, as I say, is at the birth of our movement. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Claudio. Before you joined, we had a kind of a tribute to David Sanders, Amit Singh Gupta, Jaffrullah Chaudhry, and we mentioned Bala also.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. So, friends, with that, if it's already late, like we plan to wind up by 7:30, but it's 8:10. So, if all our comrades is kind of comfortable, and if anyone, if nobody's too ready to share, can we just wind up this meeting? And yeah, thank you all the seniors and comrades and friends here. And it's just a beginning of this 25th year work, and we all need to put our hands together to make this kind of eventful year. A lot of things to do, and we also noted down like suggestions came in this meeting. And so with that, thank you all for the secretariat members and all the people who have joined, from the state representatives, national representatives, everyone. Thank you, and thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks
you.
to everybody. for joining.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you all.